Welcome back to Writing Multiverse, and oh boy, let's talk about a certain adorable relationship that's been in DC Comics. So, yeah. Originally, this wasn't supposed to be that big of a deal for the most part. Like, the original idea was Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy. I don't know where they would stand joining the Empire. But then as years went by, I started coming up with ideas and using the relationship of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy to go ahead because in the DC custom universe I'm making, or we can call it DCCU, DC custom universe. Yeah. I went with an angle where Harley Quinn is in the Suicide Squad, but whereas she would either try to escape or do something crazy, she doesn't because Poison Ivy in this continuity is dead. Because of course I'm evil. Because one of the things I wanted to do in the story was essentially I wanted to kill off Poison Ivy. Originally she wasn't supposed to be killed off, but I ultimately decided to go with it by doing an event storyline I cooked up that takes place before the main series, where it's called the War for Gotham event, which is mixing in certain elements of war games, No Man's Land, the Cataclysm event, and like mixing in Joker War and the Killing Joke that happened. And during this big conflict, Poison Ivy is killed by the Joker at the end of it, because he wants to ruin someone's life if he doesn't get what he wants out of this. And Harley Quinn was the closest person he could hurt because he already killed Jason Todd, and I'm pretty sure the Joker wouldn't want to do a routine do another act on it. He needs to do something daring. So, yeah, Poison Ivy is killed by the Joker in this battle using what I proposed is an old tactic that he hasn't used in years that will eventually catch people off guard. Harley Quinn loses her, and then I had contacted a writer on the DC Universe forums and community that I asked, hey, could you write a Harley Quinn one shot? He agreed. He wrote the one shot. I edited it. I'll put it in the link. I gave credit. I published it. I wrote the epilogue in order to connect it to be a connective tissue for the main series of where to go with certain directions. But essentially, in this, Harley Quinn is on desperate mode. She's trying to see if she can revive Red from the death from the death, and that sadly fails because this is one of those times the DCU in this version doesn't do the constant resurrection. Since we're using Young Justice logic from the connective tissue, and resurrection isn't really as the foundation piece. Resurrection isn't really up in there with the Young Justice series, because if it was, Ted Kord would still be alive, and it would have been interesting to see him. But yeah. So the idea is that Harley Quinn is recruited, is given an opportunity to join the Empire, and would fulfill anyone's heart's desires to join the Empire. Eric offers, I can resurrect her if you just join me, and if you help me out with this, I'll resurrect her for you. No extra charge. And Harley in this continuity is more like she lost that purpose without Ivy around, and because of how deep their friendship went, and how their romantic relationship went, and this would lead to her being given a device needed to get the Suicide Squad out of here, and ultimately not under Amanda Waller's control. So that's going to lead to some issues later down the road for certain casts. Ain't I just evil? Harley Quinn, I actually wanted to push more storylines with her and see if we can go with that to see what it'd be like to have Harley Quinn be pushed more, trying to get the person that really mattered to her and whatnot. And there was more suggested ideas I was coming up with. Like, okay, as I already mentioned, wrestling is a big thing in this fan fiction series because while the fan fiction is very serious and there are serious moments in the wrestling side of things, this is still fan fiction. So I say I can go crazy, and one of those is I had initially had ideas of Harley Quinn being the one that kills the Joker, but then I went against that idea because I was like, as much as I would want to do it, as much as cathartic it would be for her, no, there's a reason why I can't have her be the one that kills the Joker, because I have a storyline bit for that revolves in Batman's fate. Yeah, I'm going there. Anyways, and no, this is not creating the Batman who laughs. He already exists. But I'll get to that if I talk about the Trinity in this Ryan multiverse stuff. So, and yeah, I'm still growing the beard. I am going crazy. Anyways, so this would eventually lead sometime in book 3 where Poison Ivy is resurrected as part of the deal. I actually was debating like which version of Poison Ivy would I resurrect? Not like in terms of character, more like in terms of design, because I do like her Rebirth New 52 outfit, though she wouldn't have the green skin that she would get at the end of Heroes in Crisis, because we don't want to be reminded of that story, even though I do name drop that at times and say, oh, by the way, this is that universe where Wally West killed everyone. And yeah. And this, but I was debating on that, but ultimately, this is the part where people would be like, "Oh, well, Lord Eric is the antagonist of the story. Doesn't he like kill them, betray their offer, or something, or like twists the deal around?" No, Pete actually fulfills that offer because he doesn't give a reason. He just says, because I made the offer. She did everything I said her to do. So why should I go back on our deal? Though he doesn't really talk about why exactly he had this weird change of heart to do it, like part of his continued character development in book 3. But yeah, she and Pamela and Harley are reunited in this, and I was debating about where they go. Like, do they leave for a while and come back after the war for book 4? Because I want to do one more run with them, but then there was also an idea, like, do they switch sides? Because now that Harley doesn't have the restrictions anymore and Pamela's back, they could probably twist sides, especially with Pamela probably not wanting to be in the Empire, and, because she's also a criminal and an eco-terrorist. AKA, she's that person who cares more about the environment than the goddamn governments. So, and the other idea that I wanted to go with initially was, originally, like there were plans. I didn't have Harley and Pamela involved in this big event. Like, they would probably be mentioned and shown, but not really big deal. But I had watched the animated series, and I started reading more of the Harley Quinn books that with Poison Ivy in them, and I just love it. Not the later series where they virtually made her a Deadpool character and Deadpool was a woman. Okay, honestly, now that I think about that, that would sound like Deadpool if he wanted to, because he's perverted at times. And will scream at the top of his lungs, calling the X-Men fascists. I read that comic. Oh boy. And I did consider, like, hey, how about we have Harley meet Deadpool and see how they bounce off of each other and see how the insanity that could pursue. But, yeah, there would be a running gag I have in mind for Deadpool I wanted to do, since, he's the fourth wall breaker for the most part. But anyways, so in book 4, Harley and, yeah, so, okay, this is probably just me on the offshoot of wanting to duplicate the Darth Maul rampage scene in the Clone Wars series, where he's just killing clone troopers left and right. But one of the ideas I wanted to go with was that, well, Harley Quinn gets killed off, and, Harley was Ivy's humanity, basically, rooted humanity, and that sets her on the warpath to try and kill Bray Wyatt and everything, and kill anyone who tries to get in her way. And this leads And this is where I was like, do I want to let her have the green skin, or do I want to have her have the green skin, but then temporary, and then reverse the effect of the green skin, and after with the big retcon universe boom or something, or do I just keep her the way she is with her resurrection? I thought that would be like a pointless retcon. It's more like an aesthetic reasoning for me. But I really have enjoyed Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy's relationship in the books. I hope DC brings that back together because goddamn they screw up big time. Especially since the show's now so popular and fans want to see more of them in the comics. But yeah, Harley Quinn, I do have big visions for her character. I want to take certain directions with her. And yeah, I know killing off Poison Ivy when she could probably do a lot more as part of the Universal War that goes on. But I was like, nah, I could, but I could get lost in the shuffle, and I'm trying to keep track of everything. But the idea of Harley Quinn and like her continued development from like the animated show, since I am mixing certain elements of the comics and shows, as using Young Justice as a baseline because it's just enough to fill up a universe, but at the same time enough to create more new stories and reinterpret things and rearrange the board. But yeah, Harley Quinn is Harley Quinn's gonna be Harley Quinn. That there's no room, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The Suicide Squad, that would be an interesting route because a lot of them are mass murderers and psychopaths, and one's a boomerang captain. Like the only ones I could find somewhat redeemable in some aspect is Deadshot because he cares about his daughter than his own job and is trying to find constant ways to get out of that life. And Harley Quinn because of all everything Harley Quinn's been through and all the hell she has to go through because of her damaged psyche. And now more so in this continuity, she's become more desperate to get back the one she loves. So yeah, that's gonna be a wild ride when I start writing them in the stories. But yeah, she she and Pamela, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, they're gonna be the dynamic duo of the villain side of the DCU of the DCCU, and they're gonna kick ass and take names for the most part. I can't wait to write them. I'm looking forward to all the insanity that probably proceeds with Harley Quinn because Harley Quinn's just is the sucker for trouble, and especially if I write her and Deadpool having some fun together because it's Deadpool and Harley Quinn. And considering how much DC and Marvel's try to one up their game with the two, it wouldn't surprise me if if they ever do a crossover again. That's gonna be them. That's gonna interact before anyone else. So those were writing Multiverse. Hope you enjoyed this bit. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. If you like, comment, subscribe, and donate, stay tuned for more. And goddamn, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. Oh god, it's gonna be a wild ride. That's for sure.